So the celestial realms are very nice, they're very pleasant, but it's considered to be, on the whole, generally speaking, spiritually a dead end. Why? Because most people come to spiritual seeking through suffering. They're not happy. They've tried so much and none of it's worked. And so then they turn and think, what am I missing? What's wrong? Where's the purpose of life? Where is the meaning of life? And then they get interested in spiritual things, which may be a solution. So this is also why the Buddha talks so much about suffering, dukkha. But in the heavenly realms, there's no suffering. Everything's very jolly. I mean, the asuras might be miserable because of not having the tree, but the gods have got the tree. They don't even have to water the plant. That's the asura's job. The devas, they have bodies of light. There's no sickness, no old age. They just have, pleasure, delight, beautiful music, beautiful scents. Everybody's friendly. Lovely. Why strive? What's there to strive for? Everything's wonderful. So this is spiritually a big disadvantage because they think they're going on forever and they're not. But they have no incentive to make efforts spiritually, most of them. Because everything's very nice. What do they need? No problem. In the lower realms, like the hell realms especially, and the preta realms, everything is so difficult that they just don't have time to think of dealing with spiritual things because there is too much suffering. They have so much suffering that they're completely interned into their own psychological traumas. Can't think beyond themselves. Like people who are mentally sick, only they think about themselves. My problems, this one of the help for helping people get beyond psychological problems is to send them to look after people who are even in a worse state than they are, just to break them from that complete preoccupation with their own problems. So the lower realms are just so caught up in their own suffering they can't think beyond it. The higher realms, like the God realms, are so having blissed out and having parties the whole time, they could care less. They don't see the necessity. So what we need is a realm which combines enough suffering to make us motivated, but at the same time enough pleasure that we don't get just totally overwhelmed by all our suffering. And this means the human realm. So the human realm is 10 past, I think, isn't it? What are the human beings doing? I've got it upside down, that's why I can't see. Looks like they're all swimming. Okay, so here we have human beings, that they have temples, they have tents, they have monks listening to a Lama teaching, they have lots of yaks. Yes, this is the human realm in Tibet. So the reason why the human realm is considered to be so important and the best rebirth for anybody interested in cultivating their spiritual potential is because, first of all, because, as I say, it is a mixture of happiness and suffering. So the suffering to make us realize we need to do something to help us overcome our suffering, and enough pleasure that we're not completely overwhelmed. So we have the two. And at the same time, we have the intelligence. We have the possibility of taming our mind, training our mind, and transcending our conceptual thinking mind to reawaken to our inner Buddha potential. This is the one realm where we can do this. And for this reason, it's considered to be the most important thing can ever happen to us, is to attain a well-endowed human body. Now, not all human beings have a well-endowed human body. It doesn't mean all humans. It means those humans who have certain opportunities, which is not for everybody. Not because of intellectual levels, but just because, for example, you're not free. I mean, many people in this world are so poor that all they can think about is trying to scrape enough together to get food for the next meal. Or they might be in areas of the world where they do not have the freedom to cultivate and understand various spiritual approaches. They might not be educated so that they cannot read or understand anything beyond a very certain basic level, and so forth. Especially for women, why was it always regarded in Buddhism that to be born as a female was a disadvantage? It doesn't mean that they didn't have a perfect human body. I mean, male or female, that was not the question. But the thought that as a female it was probably due to some past not very good karma is because traditionally, not just in Asia but all over the world, women had much harder time to become well educated and also to have the freedom to do what they wanted with their own lives. They were normally not only undereducated or not educated at all, but also often, you know, at an early age married off. That was their function in life, was to be married and, you know, propagate. And so they didn't have the freedom to choose what they wanted to do in the way that most men did. And since, you know, certainly in a Buddhist society, the males, if they wanted, could become monks, and if they became monks, could become educated, which was not open for the females. Even if they were nuns, they were not educated. Therefore, to be born as a male was considered to be much more advantageous. Nowadays, I mean, even the greatest lamas, I mean, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Karmapa, and everybody, for example, when they talk to nuns and to the women, they say in the past, it's true, it was very disadvantageous to have a female body because of social conditions, and we apologize for that. We're very sorry that you've been neglected and overlooked for so long. How many millennia? But never mind. Now it's all changed. And you can, you're educated, you can study, you can practice, you can do anything that the males can do, and you can achieve anything the males can achieve. So this is very true. So when we talk about a well-endowed human body, it means male or female. It's irrelevant, because our Buddha nature is not male or female. And now that we have the same opportunities, then male or female is irrelevant for practice. So a well-endowed human body, you all have. You all meet the criteria. Because, first of all, everybody here is educated. Educated means that you can pick up a book and, you know, unless it's on an extremely abstruse subject, you can read and understand it. I mean, do you realize how rare that is, even in the world today? Still, such a large proportion of the world, especially the female part, is uneducated or undereducated. And very few people would actually pick up a book and just read it without having been instructed in its meaning beforehand. You know, because everybody you know just sits and reads, you don't recognize how rare that is in this world, even today. And so there you are. You can read anything you want. And what is more, you can read anything you want. You're not told you can only read these books and you mustn't read those books. You know, you can only read books on our religion. You mustn't read books on other people's religion. You mustn't know about anybody else. You only have to stick with us. You can read anything. Nobody's stopping you. And it's all out there. And you can believe what you want to believe. Nobody's forcing you to believe this and not believe that. All of you have a choice. You can look, you can read, you can listen, you can think, you can analyze. What makes sense? What doesn't make sense? What do I really believe? What don't I believe? You have a choice. Nobody's forcing anything. So there's that freedom. But the most important thing is the interest. Because you can be born, for example, in a very spiritual country with all very good teachers and all the conditions laid out there, your tradition, your culture, your teachers, in your language, everything. But you're not interested. You don't care about that. That's boring. You don't want to be part of that tradition. You want to go out in the world and do other things. So then, the most crucial thing we can have as a human being for really making use of this human life is a genuine interest in a spiritual path. Because without the interest, nothing's going to go. If you can't do anything if we don't want to do it. If you want to be a musician, you have to be interested in music. If you're not interested in music, how can you learn to be a musician? If you're not interested in sport, you're never going to be a sports person. If you're not interested in developing your inner spiritual qualities, you're not ever going to engage in a spiritual path. And from a Buddhist perspective, that is to waste our human life, yet again. So from a Buddhist perspective, the most important thing we can do is to recognize that this is such a precious human body we have right now. It is not going to last forever, and we don't know when it's going to end. It's no good thinking, but I'm still young and healthy, because young, healthy people get killed. Nobody knows, as the Buddha said. The one thing certain about life is death. And nobody knows when they're going to die. Who knows? You can't say you're going to live forever. Nobody's living forever. And you don't know how long we're going to live. You know, some people live to be, 115, and some people die at birth. I mean, we don't know. And people die in traffic accidents. They die from, heart attacks. They die from all sorts of things. I mean, life is very precarious. You don't know. Especially if you live in India. Every time I go to a local town, I think, well, this might be my last journey. Even with alien driving.